is a very good, will be a very good match. Thank you so much for that. Nadia, I don't know if you'd like to comment maybe on the statistical side as well. Somebody's talking.
Sorry, somebody online is not muted. In terms of the stats, of course, there are different options that you can delve deeper into. So we have spoken to our statistician and also got some feedback from the reviewers in terms of how we can potentially deal with some of the issues that could slip in, like multilinearity, etc. So
indeed
on that. But if you look overall, I agree with Suzette that in terms of if I was an investor and I looked at this, I would have zoomed in on what is the return accounting for this. And then on the other one, in terms of sectors, we also have sector supplements for other sectors. So comparison accounting for that specific industries and challenges would definitely be valuable.
Yeah, definitely. There are some studies that look across the JSE, but it's difficult to compare them because they have different footprints, they have different sector charters. So we wanted to start with a very well-contained sector. Also, we had quite a lot of delistings on the JSE, a lot of companies delisted. It would have been interesting if we had a larger sample to split it, listed and delisted, and really delve in deeper, but it is a small sample, so indigeneity is always a concern and calls for further research and refinement.
Here's a short one, the concept of Black economic empowerment.
Yes.
What is it about?
Okay, that's, we go back here. So it is legislation in South Africa. Where are those elements which says that companies should, for example, have a certain percentage of Black shareholders. They should have a certain number of Black board members, a certain percentage of Black senior managers. They need to commit a certain percentage of their turnover to skills development for Black individuals specifically. So it's really economic empowerment. So those 5 elements, it's not just charity. Give some computers to a local community. That's not the idea. It's broad-based at different levels within an organization to empower Black individuals.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Colleagues, will you excuse me because I have a second presentation in the other boardroom. So if anybody would still like to chat afterwards, you're more than welcome. Thank you. Okay, Brian, I'll
Thank you very
close
much.
up this one.
Yeah, I don't worry too much. I'll just.
Thank you so much. Chat during the break.
Okay, so thank you very much for your presentation. That was excellent and a challenging topic. So thank you so much.
Thank you, colleagues.
I just wonder if there's a slight change to the program. Sorry, let me just put this one. There's a slight change to the program. Session 4, Chire Mama and Prokini Ogunemi, they're presenting online. Mama's presenting online. So we're going to move straight on to then Prof. Beatrice. If you could come down, please. Thank you. Did you do you have your PowerPoint? Yeah, that's right. Would you like to present that? Would you prefer to?
Anything.
Okay. Yeah. Which one is yours?
Invisible.
Yeah. Essential. Okay, to move, just use.
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, colleagues. I think the whole day's program has been on technology, and I was particularly interested in the first set of discussion because it reflects much on what I'm going to say. The theme is it a friend or a foe? Now, my presentation comes from a broader project that we did, which included about 6 countries, and we were looking at gig work, the legal and religious perspective. So we had to interview people. And from the interviews, one of the things that stood out is the fact that with the advent of technology, a number of work has been moved onto the platform. There has been a lot of digital platform work. And so from delivery, even up to domestic and care work has been moved onto the platform, or is rapidly moving onto the platform. And this is where I got this particular presentation from, looking at the ethical and governance challenges for women in the digital and domestic care work or platform in 2 countries, Ghana and South Africa. I chose these 2 because they were part of the broader research that we did. And there is another reason also being that originally I'm from Ghana and then I'm living in South Africa. So it was easier for me to just do the comparative work. And more so is because South Africa, in terms of technology, I can say that has developed more than that of Ghana. So yeah, this is my presentation. So in my introduction, what I'm saying is that when we look at domestic and care work, one thing that we see is that it's an important part of work that women do. However, when we look at the economy, these women who are involved in domestic and care work are invisible. So that makes it a paradox. So the dual character of the digital labor, that is the reason why I'm doing this presentation. It notes that everybody is celebrating this platform labor and saying that it's flexible, and even those who have permanent jobs can do it whenever they want. There were a lot of people who said that they have permanent jobs, but they do all this online or digital platform work to supplement their living. So, as a result of that, we feel that, it's a good work, but it also has some challenges, and those who are involved in are vulnerable in one way or the other. So, as I said, I focused on 2 countries, analyzing the lived experiences of women who are involved in domestic and care work online. Okay, so the goal is to uncover how structural invisibility shapes inequality, precarity, and accountability in this care work. All right, so as I said, digital platforms drive crucial sectors. Specifically, we are looking at domestic work, elderly care, and cleaning services. that has emerged as a result of digital platforms. So despite the economic necessity, these workers are systematically denied formal employment, status, social protection, and collective bargaining rights. So how do these ethical failings translate into governance crisis across the two distinct African legal and cultural systems? So the objective was to explore the vulnerability of women workers, particularly in terms of their daily experiences, and to unpack the gap between traditional labor law and digital platform technology, and also to provide concrete gender-sensitive recommendations. Because this morning in the discussion, we were talking about who takes responsibility and who takes responsibility and how do we sort of incorporate values into the whole technology to benefit Africa. All right, so it was a qualitative and a comparative design research with a view of focusing on women's lived experiences. So about 24 in-depth people were interviewed, 12 from South Africa and 12 from Ghana, to capture their experiences. And the data was thematically analyzed. And of course, I also used snowball method. Okay, so in terms of the findings, it came out strongly that the work that they do is essential, but it's unrecognized in policy and social narratives. So as a result of that, most of them do not even have pension or any social cover, any cover at all. And then the digital platform reproduces historical undervaluation of feminized work. So even though it's like packaging, I was telling my colleague that it's like putting old wine in a new wine skin. Yeah. So systems designed for care actively undermine communal bond and ethical accountability. So in terms of condition of work, even though it's flexible, people can do it, can choose the hours they want to work with and all that. Still, there are vulnerabilities. So in terms of South Africa, what came out is that there were two forms of platform work. The first one is where people work directly with algorithms, and you register there, and it's able to pick on you at any time for you to work when somebody needs help. Then there was also another part where there are intermediaries. So instead of the worker working directly with algorithms, there are agents who serve as intermediaries. So you register with the agent, then the agent, when people need services, they contact the agent, and then the agent calls on you at any time. So you are able to, of course, decline or accept the service. However, in Ghana, we found out that it's only the second part, the agent one. So there are a lot of agencies registered, and they are online, and whenever you need help, you just, through WhatsApp or something, contact the agents and they are able to send somebody your home. Now, what came out also is that as a result of that, recommendations, normally rating, with the first one in South Africa, after your work, then the client will rate you. So if the client decides not to rate you, then it means your work was not, what should I say? Your work, they weren't happy with your work. And as such, the app can automatically delete you because you didn't get good rating. In the part of, with the ones that are done through the agent also, what happens is that the client is able to speak with the agent, and then because that's where they pay you through. So they will pay you through the agent. So when the clients give bad recommendation, that will be the end of your work. So that is, in the same way in Ghana, it was also the same. So if the client gives a bad recommendation, then that is the end of you in that work place. So on one hand, that's what I'm saying, on one hand, it is a friend. You can choose to work at any time that you want. There was a client who's, one of the ladies said, I don't want to work on weekends. So when the agent calls me during weekend, I refuse to go. I only do it as it suits me. But at the same time, because you don't deal directly with the client, but they do it through an intermediary, whatever happens there, you don't know. So you are always at their mercy. They can decide not to recommend and keep quiet, or to give you a lower rating, which in turn will affect your work. Okay. So I think this is what I've explained. And so also in the findings, what came out is that for the women we interviewed from South Africa, I think some of the major issue was also safety. Safety, and also safety in terms of the client. You know, you don't know the clients. That's also another one. You don't know the client. The agent can just call on you and tell you that, oh, there's somebody who wants to work, living this property, and then you have to go. So you don't know who you are going to meet. So that puts them also under pressure, because you just get there, whether they like you or not, it's a problem. And in the write-up, I've given examples of some of the examples that the ladies share. Some of them were saying that if you go to a place for example, the South African ones, I spoke with some people who are, foreigners and trying to make a living. And they say that there are some homes where you go, the moment the person sees you, they don't like you. So right from the beginning, you are done. They will give you a lower rate, or they will refuse to rate you. If you work and they are not happy, they can do whatever they want, and it affects you. So that was one. With the women we interviewed from Ghana, one of the things was also social stigma, where people feel that, an agent sent you somewhere. It can be one of the examples that they gave. One young lady was saying she was sent to a place, and when she got there, she did her work, but afterwards people were pointing fingers, thinking that she's a sex worker. She went there for something else instead of a domestic domestic worker. So these are some of the issues that came out. So, the theory that we used to analyze this is the African feminist ethics, which emphasizes local power dynamics and post-colonial issues. Because of time, let me quickly go. So with the analysis, it came out strongly that there's failure of relationality, or there's no relationship, because when you are working with an app, there's no relationship. So when somebody, that's why people will not know your situation, but the app can just kick you out or something. Also, depersonalization, so which suggests that women in digital, domestic, and care are reduced to tasks, ignoring their individual experiences. There is also injustices, and as I said, also the issue of safety, harassment, and all that. Yeah, so the recommendation is the need for a gender audit in digital labor, especially on the platform, accessible reporting and protection platform designed for harassment, because most of them said because they cannot speak for themselves. People rate them, and that is what goes. They don't have a platform to defend themselves. Yeah. And so issue of social protection also came in, and then the need to integrate lived realities of workers' input in the digital, domestic, and care work to ensure systems and agents act to reflect communal values. So the importance of including African values in the development of technology was also highlighted. All right, I think I'll stop here. Yeah, thank you. Questions? Any question or contribution?
They find the two issues. They said they are not recognized in the policy of the countries, and they are outside the social narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I told you the story will emphasize more on their capturing in the GDP. What have you found about that one?
Yeah, come again.
Income, the end.
Okay.
Is that being captured in the GDP of either Ghana or South Africa or both?
Okay, I think maybe that is also an area that I will have a look at, because what had happened is it differs because of the agents and the intermediaries. Whereas in Ghana, I think it's a Department of Labor. They work closely with the Department of Labor, but for those in South Africa, with those who have the intermediaries, it becomes difficult, because there are people who, for example, most of the women we interviewed were illegal immigrants. And as a result of that, the agents are able to abuse them. Exactly.
But if they are to be captured in the GDP, then there must be policy to take care of their needs, to take care of their welfare.
Yeah, okay. Because I think the traditional form of that, people have to pay UIF, unemployment fund, for them. But with all this new system and the platform, digital platform thing, I think it's still new and developing. So with the agents, it becomes very difficult. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Very interesting research. I actually did some research on this in 2019, And one of the things we advanced for the high unemployment in Africa was the use of big platforms for that. My concern then was that the big platforms, Fiverr and Upwork and all that, were all overseas companies. And then since after COVID, there has been an uptake of local African-based platforms. Have you studied the use of any of the African-based platforms?
We briefly looked at one, the SWIP, South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that would be an important subsequent study to look at. I'll share my work from 2019 with you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome.
This is such an incredibly important area of research, and I mean I'm a bit shocked at some of the information you gave us, just in terms of how certain sectors are totally marginalized, and then they abuse, and the fact that you can lose a potential career because you get one bad rating is terrifying. So thank you very much, and please continue your research in that field. Thank you so much. Thanks very much. Another hand. Okay, so if I can call Prof. Prof. Chinwe Okuyezu and Prof. Dangada. Are you both of you going to present or just one? Okay. Which one's yours? Sorry.
Pan Africa.
Okay. Okay, you just use the arrows.
Yeah.
Happy with this?
Okay, good everyone. Standing on existing protocol. Our work is on disruptive or protective, evaluating fintech's role in mitigating economic vulnerability under weak governance regime. So of course, in line with the discussion that has been going on, but then we're taking it from another dimension. That's the fintech. So the opening paradox. Why is it a paradox? Because we are looking at it as double-edged sword of the fintech. So when you say something is a double-edged, mean that it may actually come up positive or negative. So millions now access finance digitally, yet many economies remain vulnerable. One is expected that with the growth of fintech, we're going to see positive. Then we ask the vital question, does fintech protect or disrupt? So we keep thinking. So I want us all to brainstorm, because you may be wondering that why ask the question? It's already a known issue that fintech should protect and should present something positive. Maybe the finding will be a bit shocking to all of us. So across West Africa today, millions of people send money, borrow and invest, all from their mobile phones. Of course, I'm sure even when we came here, we've tried to do certain transfers and all that. Fintech has brought finance to the palm of the hand, no doubt about that. Our economies remain fragile. It's actually a concern. The same innovation that empowers the poor might also be quietly deepening our vulnerability. That paradox is our concern. The double-edged nature of fintech is what my colleague and myself try to look at. So why this study? Do we have issues? Do we have practical experiences? Have we witnessed any transfer that didn't go through and we couldn't trace our hard-earned money and all that? And we speak all the grammar, and at the end of the day, nothing came out of it. I don't know whether you've experienced that. So we're speaking out of practical experiences and things that we know that happened. Then we said, okay, it's not just about being speculative. Can we also look at empirical data to analyze and say, yes, we are not speculating. These are real issues. So can fintech build resilience in economies where governance is weak? Remember, the main thing is about innovations Are they friends or are they foes? So if we look at these things, we'll say that yes, every economy is clamoring for that, asking for fintech, let's develop more, because from the comfort of our home, we can do a lot. But we are saying, do we have a role that the governance must play? If not, we may have a different story to tell. So while we ask this question, you see, policymakers love fintech, like I've said. They see it as a silver bullet, a way to solve exclusion. We've been talking about financial exclusion and all that, boost inclusion and then drive growth. But we ask, what happens when this technology grows faster than the institution meant to regulate it? Just like today, we are saying that AI is actually overtaking. The rapid nature of its growth is amazing. Also in the fintech area, do we have similar experiences? So what did we do? Because we are worried about a number of things. So we looked at 15 West African countries from 2017 to 2024 based on availability of data. So we brought together 3 key variables. You can see the variables of our interest, and of course, I'll explain why we selected them. One is fintech adoption, that is how much digital finance is used. Again, is governance quality, how strong or weak that the institutions are, and again, economic vulnerability, that's how easily economies fall into crisis. So we controlled for inflation, which is a major problem for developing economy, and we adopted generalized linear model after testing all our variables for stability. So basically, we wanted to see whether fintech protects or disrupts when governance is weak, so that we don't just build our castle in an open air. So if you say that we want to adopt, we must look and say that it's not just about adoption. There must be things that we must have our foundation well laid. So essentially, we examined 15 West African countries. Like I've said, these are the variables of our interest. And of course, inflation as a control variable. Why did we use inflation? Because we know time value of money and all that. So we adopted the GLM, and we chose this because of the nature of our variables, okay? The time dimension is T is equal to 8, and the ledger cross section of 15, that's 15 countries, making it suitable for handling non-normal distribution and ensuring robust estimates. We ran our tests, and of course, to look at the statisticity of our variables. So the findings, what did we discover? The results challenge a lot of what we think we know, and that's what we want to share. First, fintech adoption significantly increases economic vulnerability, which was shocking because we won't believe that with advancement, with fintech and all that, things will be better. If not, why are we actually chasing? Why are we all after that? The government, individuals, establishment, and all that. So in plain language, we are saying that from our discovery, more digital finance, more fragility. For every 1% rise in fintech, because remember we say we don't want to be speculative, so we went out using data to conduct an empirical investigation. So we are saying for every 1% rise in fintech adoption, economic vulnerability rose by 0.26%. The second thing that we discovered, governance had a negative but insignificant effect, meaning that governance should reduce vulnerability, but in practice, most countries, institutions were too weak to make difference. And the third was inflation, as expected, of course, significant worsened vulnerability. So taken together, the message is sobering. Fintech alone does not make economies stronger without capable governance. So it can destabilize more than it stabilizes. That was actually what we discovered. So when we actually clamor for fintech and all that, we should also put our thinking cap, telling ourselves, let's check the environment. Let's make sure that we've done the right foundation. We've gotten a number of things right, because the constraint within an environment may actually give us a negative outcome instead of the expected positive return. So we'll try to unpack. So at the micro level, fintech works, no doubt, just like what we said, all the transfers and all the positive things that we do and all that. So people gain access to finance, can save and can borrow easily. But at the macro level, the story changes. Fintech can accelerate credit bubbles, heighten cyber risk, and enable capital flights, especially where regulators are unprepared. And if you're looking at most developing economy, you ask yourself, how prepared are the institutions? Because these things are also moving at a very fast rate. So in weakly governed settings, digital platforms often bypass oversight, moving faster than institutions can catch up. So while households might feel empowered, the system becomes more vulnerable. We call this the mechanism tension. The same tools that enhance access can also magnify instability. Basically, at the household level, fintech improves liquidity and inclusion. People can save and borrow. But we are saying that fintech works well individually, but the sum of individual success don't always create macroeconomic resilience. Governance matters deeply. But our findings suggest that the current level of governance in the region is too weak. Remember, we'll study the particular region, West Africa, and we are saying that the governance that we are seeing to take care of the fintech with all its positive appears to be weak. So this doesn't negate the governance, it highlights a threshold problem. Governance quality must reach a certain minimum before it begins to buffer digital risk effectively. It's not something that we can just close our eyes and think that we can work from our comfort zone. So our result reflects insufficiency, not irrelevance. We are not saying that fintech is not, we are saying that fintech is very, very relevant. We are not negating that. But we are saying if we look down on the governance and institutions, we are going to make the mistake. So what role does inflation play in strengthening or weakening the fintech vulnerability relationship? Inflation emerged as a powerful amplifier of that thing that we are talking about. In high inflation context, digital finance platforms lose stability because purchasing power erodes, real returns decline, and that's what we are saying. So this magnifies fintech destabilizing effect. Stable macroeconomic policy is therefore essential for fintech to function as a protective tool. If you look at fintech, you ask the question, because that's what we established, whether looking at it as a paradox. Are we saying we're expecting positive from that or negative? We're saying, yes, it's good. It's the way to go. But we are calling on strong governance and institutions, because if we don't take care of that, fintech may begin to function in a negative way, not being a protective tool. So this study therefore urges policymakers to rethink digital finance strategy. The real driver of resilience is not technology alone, as we believe, because the clamor, the yearning for technology is so big. We believe that that's it. Once you get the technology, you're there. We are saying, wait a minute, think twice. Fintech must be anchored in strong institutions, very essential, with clear consumer protection, data integrity, and regulatory coordination across borders. It's not just something that is just within. So policy implication, so what do we do about that? The answer is not to stop innovation. Don't get us wrong. We are not saying innovation is not important. We are not saying technology is not the way to go, but we are saying that we need to look deep, is to build governance around it. Our study recommends 5 things. 1, make governance capacity building a precondition, not an afterthought. So it must be a precondition for us to get it right. It won't be, once it's an afterthought, we're going to lose the mark. So still focus from financial inclusion to financial stability. Enforce risk safeguards on digital lending and payments. Promote digital literacy and consumer awareness is essential. Foster regional regulatory collaboration. Since digital platform doesn't respect borders, it's not just a particular country issue. It cuts across all borders. So integration is important. So if governance is weak, what immediate practical step can policymakers take to prevent fintech from becoming destabilizing, we are saying 3 practical steps. One is regulatory sandbox, very important, consumer protection. And of course, we are interested in regional collaboration, create shared oversight. Example, under ECOWAS, Afta, and all that. So these steps can mitigate risks even before full institutional capacity is achieved. So about Afta, do you think it's important? So the Afta aims to promote cross-border digital finance as part of the African digital single market. So our findings suggest that integration without harmonized governance could transmit financial shocks regionally. Thus, governance harmonization should accompany digital financial integration, ensuring that cross-border fintech operations strengthens, not destabilize member economy. So the interesting facts, I want to leave us with one final reflection. Technology is not neutral. It mirrors the strength or weakness of the system it enters. So once technology enters your own environment, it will tell us how strong or otherwise. In countries with strong governance, fintech becomes protective. It builds resilience. You see, while the same innovation can act differently in different environments. So in countries with weak governance, it becomes disruptive. It amplifies all the things that we are saying. So again, in talking about whether it's a friend or a foe, so we are now saying that check the environment and the constraint within that environment, then you go home with a valid point. Yeah, I'm almost done. So our challenge is not just to innovate technologically, but innovate institutionally. Because in the digital economy, the strength of your code is only as strong as the strength of your governance. And I think on these notes, I want to say a big thank you, but then reframing the narrative, fintech is not a substitute for governance. Digitalization equals automatic resilience. Institutional strength must evolve with technology. Innovation without supervision will give you fragility. And a big thank you for your time.
Do we have any questions?
Or contribution?
Okay. But thank you so much to yourself and Dr. Laga. Lovely to have had you here. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, just thank you for you and Laga. Thank you so much. Javita. Okay, which one's yours?
Eating them.
That's Akbar X Reviewers. Done all of these. When did you provide the slides?
Did
you send them? Because I couldn't.
He even said received, sir.
Do you have it on memory stick? I can try.
Memory stick. The email I sent to you.
So you don't have it on memory stick?
Yeah, I can run away. I don't have it on memory stick. Maybe the person next.
Let me see if can you check? Celia, can you please check with Paul? Maybe he has the presentation and he can share from his side.
GP benefit 25.
Because that's why over the lunch, I don't know if you saw me announce that. I asked everyone to come.
Yes, I heard, and I went
And
to.
you ignored me.
I went to sort out the. Yeah, I forgot that I was one of those people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Auditorium. Then after 25. Yeah. If we all forgot to share it. I don't know if the phone will work. I open it on PowerPoint and then we do the USB-C.
You're gonna have to do that. I've no idea. So you can try it.
I can try it. See.
We've been very technical.
for any type of development of technology. And that's the argument here, is how do we now build in uh, on the process of decision making, on the design of technology, elements of ethics, trust, and values that help mold how this technology is going to develop and how it's possible to be developed by others. So trust in this case would be the strategic assets of anyone, any developer, meaning that they would have to, on the way they deal with their technology, with the users and all of that, trust would be a great asset. That's the only strength that people that don't understand in values, ethics, trust, we create a situation where there's more levels of peer control because people start working together, they embrace those values, they understand them, and they start being the control necessary of their peers. And that's what we need most of the times for protection of the collective good. So having said all that, this is just some infographics that then I went and played with ChatGPT so I could use some kind of open AI to make sense of what I was saying and writing. And they here mostly represent how it would work to have ethics as part of the design phase of AI development. So the idea would be to have some values that guide every type of AI development, having into account how it's going to affect the people that use it. So fairness should be one of the things that is there, and different measures of fairness, because as we look at AI right now, some of the biggest issues and dilemmas that people find is algorithms that become discriminatory. So how do we prevent that? What is it possible to input into our AI so that it identifies when it has had quite a number of information that can then send a red alert to say, I may be biased about the subject because this is what I've been fed in terms of information. Because one of the things that we don't understand is that most AI that exists up to now is not really an independent thinker. They are organizers of information that is inputted. So if only information about a subject in a certain way is inputted, it's probable that your AI will have an, I don't want to say opinion because an AI would not have an opinion, but the information it would give you back would actually be biased because of whoever's been using it. And I think that it is possible, I'm not technical, but it's probably possible that an AI can come to a point where it says, according to the information fed to me, there's only this, my sources only give me this perspective. So there may be some other perspectives, which I haven't found anyone that does that exclusion or, you know. So, and also due attention to privacy, because this is one of the things that is mostly happening, which is the violation of people's privacy and data. So this is just to show how it would work in a nutshell if we looked at AI from a more ethics perspective, more value evaluation of what we do, how we decide what to develop and how it should work. So just to finish, to end, I think it's urgent to look into ethics and AI in terms of behavioral change. We really need to start talking about it in terms of changing mindsets of what people value when they're developing and what companies that invest in AI think about it. With the great information that we had today, that water and electricity is also being channeled. We don't want to be waterless. Or for those that live in Joburg, they'll know what I'm talking about. We already don't have water and electricity. We don't want it to go to AI and then. But more than that is understanding that laws are not enough. They are very reactive. We need something proactive to protect us. Ethics is that proactive compass, and ethics is actually different than law that can be rigid and impede a bit of the development. Ethics is not a barrier, it's actually a catalyst. It's actually something that allows people to be more creative because it opens chance to balance consequences and choose less dire consequences at the end of the day. So, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much for taking us back to the basic. In the course of the presentation, you mentioned that the two greatest bad acts of 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 sorry, the two greatest acts of and bad. Then talk very well. Value the presentation is not explained how it developed in individual and organization.
Okay, so I actually went on to talk about trust because I think trust is something, trust in AI is something that we can all agree that we don't really have. Hence, we have conferences like this where everybody's asking themselves, should we trust this? But more than that is a lot of the things that we use tech-wise are by companies that we don't trust. And when I say this is if we look at the social media that impacts so much all over the world, they developed by actually tycoons that nobody trusts them in their personal capacity. And when I say this is if you look at the scandals and you look at Mark Zuckerberg and all of those are the people that now detain what we're using has technology, they have our data and all of that. But then that had behaviors that have shown us that the interest is really the return. So when I talk about trust is there's a level of trust that needs to be developed, but we need to educate people that first for us to actually require that the developers do invest in that trust, you need to empower people, which means that, for example, if you use Meta, and you don't trust Meta. Up to this point, it confuses me that collectively we're not able to, the youngs like cancel Meta. Because Meta depends on the users. The users actually have not lost, but they don't think they have power to make changes. And I think that's what ethics brings. When you start talking about ethics and you start educating people about what are the values that should protect them, you all actually empower them to force the big corporations to work with their protections. So what I'm saying is, we need to get to a point where the standards that talk about trust and all of that, and say that this is how we should develop technology, they're really enforced to a point where a Juvita can actually understand how is a company, what are they doing to keep the trust. So they should report on how they develop their technology. They should report on the capacities of their technology, not to the detail of technicalities that I'm not going to understand, but to the point where a common person can understand that another technical part can go and test and say, yes, they are actually protecting your data, your privacy, they're not selling your data, which are already ruled, but nobody's keeping a check. In relation to the other values, which is transparency and all of that, I'm just saying that values should be the basis of how they take the decision. So when somebody tells you that they now selling you this new technology that does A, B, and C, they should explain to you also what is it behind that you don't see. And you should have a right also to see that. So there should be transparency on the capabilities of the AI that you're using, which doesn't exist. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're talking about values differently, but I understand what you're saying. You're talking value in terms of, yes, and the trust becomes one of your strategic values, and that adds to the value of the company. I was actually talking of values like trust, transparency. But I agree with you, and that's exactly the point of this is how do we navigate to a point where values, ethics are exactly what drives your value as a company, as a developer, is how do we evaluate? We evaluate you based on the trust factor that you bring to us because you're following your values. So, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much once again. And I really like the way you, we really go full circle there. You come right back to basics and bringing it down to values. It's going to be important, and you need to do that. Please. So, our final speaker is not going to be joining us today. So that is the end of our session. So, end of day one, and we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, bright and ready for day ahead. But before that, don't forget our cocktail party at 6:30 at the Inari